Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Howdy everyone, my name is Will Adeshina and I am one half of the Friday Night Gamecast. My co-host Nick was on a previous episode of Side Quests talking about the ridiculously entertaining Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. As the Friday Night Gamecast, we are a video game podcasting duo that specializes on a variety of topics, including news and rumors, lists, and reviews. We just recently started up our third season, which is super exciting, and we would love to have you drop in and listen to us. But enough about me. Let's get to the real reason we're here and why I'm hosting this action-packed episode of Side Quests. Today we're talking about a Gen 7 hidden gem, Asura's Wrath. Asura's Wrath was released on 2012, developed by CyberConnect2, and produced by Capcom. My first taste of Asura's Wrath came way back on the Xbox 360 when demos were still commonplace. I saw a new Capcom game was coming out, so I had to at least give it a once-over, and I ended up playing the most video game anime, or the most anime video game of all time. Honestly, I still can't tell you which after beating this game twice, but when I actually played through the demo, which involved fighting a boss bigger than the planet and punching his fingers so many times with my 6 arms that he exploded, I was hooked. That all happens within the first hour of the game, by the way. I mean, before you even get 2 hours in, you've already been through giant space battles, fought a giant elephant gorilla hybrid, and been accused of murder, which comes with a 12,000-year sentence. Asura had a horrible lawyer. Now, Asura as a character looks really unique. He has these really big bronze arms juxtaposed against his orange and brown skin that looks carved directly out of marble. And during certain fights, his arms will actually chip away and shatter, giving him this wounded animal look when you're having these really big, stressful fights with these crazy bosses. This look also extends out to some of the other demigod characters as well. For instance, Wizen is an early boss that you end up fighting with a giant golden arm in his base form. And eventually, as you fight him and have more rage and rage taken out on him, he takes on this Buddha-like look and is larger than the entirety of the planet. Now, each of the major bosses have this kind of cyborg / Indian / Japanese unique flair to them, which I really haven't seen, done well in any other kind of game like this. In the world of Gaia itself, or aka Earth, it's really seen as this mostly destroyed or a semi-destroyed state, but there's definitely some old world beauty that you can see in some of these smaller villages that humans have taken place in during the entirety of the time that they're being attacked by these rampaging Goma. Speaking of Goma, these other characters are really just monsters. They're dark spirits known as the impure in-game that are born from Gaia's will and are the embodiment of the planet's anger at the demigods, who are siphoning off mantra from the planet to make themselves stronger and to increase the growth of their empire of Shinkoku. Now, I know I just threw a lot of nouns at you right now, but the main thing to think is demigods equal viruses and Goma equal white blood cells. It is an oversimplification, but for the point of the story and kind of what we need to get from there, that's really the best way to look at it. And the gameplay itself is really a hit or miss. The moment-to-moment gameplay is really simple action. So you have your normal punches, then you have your heavy punches, and there's even some shooting involved. Since Capcom actually released Devil May Cry 3 7 years before this game came out, Asura's Wrath's combat is almost shallow by comparison. Outside of the normal ground fighting, however, there are sections that turn into on-rail shooters, kind of like Panzer Dragoon, if you've had the chance to check that out. These are fun switch-ups from the minute-to-minute Punch-Man gameplay, but where the game really shines, or where it may lose you, is the larger-than-life boss battles, which are rife with quick-time events, button mashes, and of course, plenty of anime screaming. When Asura's fighting bosses, there's not a traditional health bar for the boss. There's the amount of health that Asura has, and then underneath that is your rage bar. Now, as you take damage, of course, Asura's health goes down. However, as you take damage and as you give damage to the boss, your rage bar goes up. Once that rage bar has been filled, then you can actually pull off a burst attack, which normally involves Asura doing a really big punch or a really big headbutt or even a strong bite that pushes you to the next phase of the boss. It's a really great way to keep the focus on Asura and just show that it's not about beating a boss to the point where they go down, but actually getting Asura so angry to the point that he kind of pushes them to that next phase. The best thing about the QTEs, though, is how they relate to the action that's actually happening on screen. So this is one of the few games where hopefully the QTEs draw you further into what's going on during the action scene, so you're not just pressing a button and watching your character do something, and then pressing another button, and then watching your character maybe do something different, even if it's that similar or same button. Your button mashing, your stick spinning, and your precision button presses all aim to have you feel the way that Asura does in that scene he's actually in. So maybe you're going to be punching a demigod 100 times in the face, or you fling another demigod into the upper atmosphere, or you punch the level's big boss in the face mid-monologue to start the fight, which, you heard that right, Asura can punch every boss out of their monologue, and it is incredible. In fact, my favorite fight of the game involves punching a boss early, who then proceeds to no-sell your punch completely and then slug you right back, sending you flying across the surface of the moon. So yeah, you also fight on the surface of the moon, and then you get sent back to Gaia on the tip of a Sephiroth-style comically large sword. Like, this is just a ridiculous over-the-top game from start to finish. But moments like that is what really makes Asura's Wrath so special to me and others who have played and enjoyed it. The presentation of this game is something that's so unique, it would be nearly impossible to replicate nowadays. It's a science fiction / fantasy world that draws from Hindu mythology and Japanese mythology. It incorporates cyborgs and supernatural cosmic energies. It sounds like the world's craziest word salad, and it is. But it's a salad that pulls you through this surprisingly fun story. And yes, the story is good, but no, I'm not going to go into crazy detail because this is something that you should hopefully play through yourself, or at the very least, watch a walkthrough online. The setup is fairly standard for Asura's Wrath, who is one of 8 generals in the army of the demigods. You're going into war in space while riding on the outside of a spaceship to fight a giant worm. After that, you're accused of murdering the demigod emperor, and then your wife is murdered, and then your daughter is kidnapped, and then you're beaten up by your 7 coworkers. Afterwards, you fall into a 12,000-year coma. So it's the standard video game setup. But all of that happens in just the very first episode. These episodes are full-on anime style, complete with mid-episode bumpers that show things that happened in the actual episode leading up to that point, as well as a next time on Asura's Wrath, where they have these ending scenes that push you into the next part of the story by showing you what's going to happen coming up on a future episode. It is very endearing as an anime fan, but it also serves as a solid hook to keep you moving through the story, which should run you roughly 9 hours or the better part of a weekend if you're pushing off some chores. I loved watching Asura's journey through the main story, from being just a revenge-seeking rage junkie to seeing more of the world that's been ravaged by the demigods, and eventually, yes, getting his revenge, but from more than just himself. It's a character shift that takes him from more of an avenger rather than the destroyer that he previously was, and it's completely worth seeing that game time for it to happen. Ultimately, this is a story-driven game. The QTEs and the boss fights are really just vehicles to pull you through that story, and watching Asura develop over the course of the game is well worth checking it out. The only other warning I would give, aside from that aforementioned shallow gameplay, is that the real ending is available as DLC, which, while it is fun and it's on a scale that's even more epic than the main story is, it's still quite a bummer that you have to go outside the game for the true ending. Still, I would recommend Asura's Wrath to anyone that's looking to scratch an anime game itch, or if you're not completely anti-QTE, Or if you're looking for a cinematic experience that doesn't ask you to have lightning fast reflexes to appreciate it. Maybe something like a Metal Gear Rising would bring to mind the type of gamer that this could attract, although you can't expect the same kind of platinum game style of combat. On that flip side, if you play these kind of television-style Telltale games, you might want some anime flair to go along with it, then maybe this is the one for you. I'd love to thank Matt Stormageddon for inviting me on and giving me a platform to talk about this crazy game that I love so much. If any of you want to reach out to me and tell me how much you love Asura's Wrath, then you can contact me on the website formerly known as Twitter at RealKingZozotai. That is RealKingZozotai. Or DM me at the Friday Night Gamecast Instagram. Hopefully you all have a great Friday night. Deuces and happy gaming.
Hey, Nerf herders.
You sure you want to go with that?
Hey, everyone?
There we go. More inviting.
Have you ever had a movie that you really wanted to love, but something holds you back?
Or one that you did love in spite of a flaw?
Well, I'm Case Aiken.
And I'm Sam Alisea.
And on Another Pass, we sit down with cool guests to look at movies that we find fascinating.
But flawed.
And we try to imagine what could have been done when they were made to give them that little push.
We're not experts. We just believe in criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Sure.
So come take another pass at some movies with us.
And every now and then, we can celebrate movies that did it on their own, too.
You can find us at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Pass it on.
CPOV.
CertainPOV.com.